Hi everyone, just waiting a few more minutes. We'll be soon joined with Ron Vanderschuk, and he's from CIS, and we're just having a bit of a chat and a conversation today about how things are going, and also with the changes that potentially could happen coming forward, how we're working together and how IT has an impact. So just waiting for a few people to come on board, but I think we'll have Ron join us soon. Hey Ron, there you are. How you going?
Good. How are you?
Not too bad, not too bad. How's everything?
Yeah, well, it can't be all that bad. It's sunny in Melbourne here, and even though I'm not outside, I always appreciate a bit of sunshine.
Yeah, I got out this morning. I was actually tried to work outside until the screen became too glary.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
As I've told you before, most of my activity outside of work has been doing chores around the house now that we're in lockdown.
Yeah. Anything interesting?
Well, mainly just giving a fresh coat of paint to some of the areas in the house that need it.
Yeah.
Most overdue, and I guess the unintentional upside of the lockdown is that we get to do more around the house.
Yeah, that's it. Unless you live in a rental, which just brings you more frustration.
That's right.
Yeah. Hey, thanks, Ron, for coming on board. And I guess for everyone out there today, we just wanted to have chats with some of our clients, some of our people within our network, to kind of know a little bit more about what they're doing. We can share it around, but also how everyone's adjusting and also looking at planning forward. So, Ron, do you want to tell us a little bit about what CIS does and how we can engage?
Right. Well, we provide IT personnel with various types of experience, anything from project managers, business analysts, programmers, SQL people, and right through to desktop support people to various organizations, much larger than ourselves. And it could be anything from long-term to short-term contracts. We have some contracts where we've been working with the client for over 10 years.
Wow.
And others that are just come and go depending on the needs that they have at the time.
So you guys help fill in the gaps.
Yeah, basically, we try and we've got a sort of cadre of or cohort of people that we call upon to support us. But we also, from time to time, find new people. One of the things that we are good at is finding entry-level help desk people that will stay for a fair while because they're psychologically geared towards that sort of work, and they've got the right sort of mentality to fit into an organisation, which is what we do. What we think our differentiator may not be as appreciated by many organisations, but we certainly feel that we have greater longevity. And what we are internally we call it stickability. We find people that basically stay, and the last thing you want is a lot of turnover.
Yeah. I think, and also with juniors, I mean, you've got to have this, be able to, as you said, you do psychology tests or something like that. So
yeah, we do personality profiles. We look at their background, what they've done. It's not so much the marks at school, or at university. They come very much a secondary or third rate. It's the way they interact with people, how they behave, what their ambitions are. We find that strangely, people that score the highest, the ones that are very academically orientated, are not really suitable to a lot of the jobs because they are just academically orientated. They're not people orientated.
Yeah.
And one of the things that in the IT world, if you're helping other people, you've got to have a high degree of social interaction in a positive way. And people can be very frustrated by IT, so they take out their frustrations on the people that try to help them.
Yeah,
and lots of other things. I'm sure the paramedics and the doctors and the nurses get a lot of that too.
I think, and that's the other thing with all of this C-19 that's happened, it's brought in a lot of perspective as to, half of our problems aren't life or death problems. We can take a breath and just calm down and be nice to the people at the other end. So,
well, one of the things that we do when we bring on people on board that they usually are our own staff is that we help them calm down. We give them strategies and tactics so that when things become really frustrating and in the moment of sort of what appears to be chaos, if you just do a few simple tactics that actually calms you down, then you could think more rationally. You know that we all know that when we're stressed out, we actually don't think properly. It's all about fright, flight, or fight type scenario, and you don't want that in a situation in an environment, especially when we have a lot of people in hospitals where they have to also triage the type of queries they get into the organisation or IT at the time. So they've got to be thinking clearly and being calm and relaxed and having that sort of natural style. That's great. And if you can also have tactics where you can actually further calm yourself down to think rationally is good.
Yeah. I think, talking like even here at humanIT, help desk people, there's level 1s, there's level 2s, and especially the first ones that get it, you can get all sorts of inquiries, and you might have the same question, for the 50th time in the day, like I've forgotten my password, and you've got to pick it up with that great smile and start the conversation again, and then see how it prioritizes within other tasks that might be in your queue.
Yeah, look, you have the same issue in your organisation, so it's really important to have the right sort of people, because they're actually the front line of your organisation. They're the ones that people interact with, and if they don't have a very good experience, then it becomes negative internally. We've had a few clients that have used us in the past but don't use us now, and when we go and visit them, we sometimes sort of say, to the receptionist, just call IT help desk, and their comments is, no, that's the last thing you want to do if you've got an IT problem. Well, it's a sad reflection on the organisation if their own people don't have confidence in IT.
That's not good.
No.
So I guess a little bit about, we spoke yesterday as well, and you were talking a little bit about how we've all been working remotely for a while, so understand the last few months have been different, but how are you guys placed, adapting to the changes that are happening in the business world more rather than just simply remote working?
Well, one of the things that I found over the last 7 or 8 years, a lot of our business at the beginning was in infrastructure support services, and now it's in specialty areas where people have highly narrow skills, but they're very good at what they do to support organizations. Over the years, as we all know, that people have moved more and more into the cloud, and they don't need to have the infrastructure that they used to have. In fact, we were exactly the same. We had a lot of infrastructure about 6, 7 years ago, and we're now totally into the cloud. Everything that we do is cloud-based. We use proprietary software that's cloud-based, and there's not an area where we can't actually just use our laptops, go somewhere and access everything that we need by the cloud. And we see that businesses have done that themselves. I remember working with some of the people from Optus, and they were using Office 365, and everything was in the cloud themselves. So it's an interesting thing when the major organizations are focusing more and more around cloud-based solutions. But that's the major area that we see. How we fit in, it depends pretty much what our clients are looking at. We've had a call for data analytics, and we had database management and complex application of various tools, and the replacement of their antiquated systems. Like a good deal of our business has been in with hospitals, and
yeah.
a lot of their hardware is dated, and
Mm.
a lot of the software that they use, which is surprising, they're using Access databases, and they've got hundreds and hundreds of these Access databases, and
Yeah.
and the trouble is that they're not supported. People don't know how to use them, and they've
Yeah.
got various versions of
Okay,
of the database running on
Probably.
different systems. And one of them we found was around having people that are donating organs. So they had a register of organ recipients, but they were actually two different databases,
Oh,
and they
no.
don't have the same data in it. So
Yeah, that
that
could
was
be
a little
very.
scary,
Yeah.
in that respect. And they're slow to adapt. One of the problems that we found, say, with hospitals is they're underfunded in the IT area. So
Mhm.
everything gets put back, and they
Mhm.
don't, certainly none of them, not not none, but
Most of
a
them, yeah.
good majority of them don't even have their software licenses upgraded. So they're
Mm.
always vulnerable.
I guess what about the last few months though? Just with the way you hire your or you place staff into organizations or whatever, or the interactions, like business has changed.
Yeah.
So how are you finding that?
Well, we've been doing that for a
More
while,
room-
actually. We've been the very thing. It's funny. People have rung me up and said, "Oh, look, we'd like to help you get into the cloud." Well, we've been in the cloud totally for 4 years, and we do everything remotely.
Yeah.
And when we actually looking for people that we don't know, or
Yeah.
finding the right sort of skill sets, we do that again remotely.
Okay.
We have video interviews. We also have our own proprietary system where people do a little elevator pitch on the
Yep. Oh, no.
for a particular job.
Yeah.
They also answer a series of questions, particularly targeted around their skill sets on that particular job.
Yeah.
And we do the psych test, and we do a sort of a background assessment of who are the type of people that are most likely to fit in. So we have a profile of what's the right sort of person,
Yeah.
combined with his experience, and we look less on all the technical stuff that they say they know, because we all know technical stuff, but it's the experience in applying that
Yeah.
that's really important. And we try to delve into the, um, the work that they've done and what they've actually done. And one of the things that
Because
I found
people are usually part of projects, but they haven't actually done that work sometimes.
Oh, absolutely. We
Yeah.
find that all the time. They say,
Yeah.
"Oh, we're part of this team, and I've
Yeah.
done this
Yeah.
and that," and then
What
you go delve into it. And one of the things that I found interesting over the period where we're doing a lot of this remotely, you have to think a lot about the questions you ask and
Mm.
the type of answers that you expect people to provide to get the right sort of outcome.
I
And
guess, yeah. So I guess, sorry to cut you, but I think you're quite, as we're just going through this part of the question, you're quite well positioned for what's happening now. And even, I guess, the next thing we were going to ask you is some of the observations about what you believe it's going to shape businesses going into the future. You guys are well positioned to help those businesses do kind of adopt what you guys have been doing, and the way you'll be bringing on onboarding team members, because it'll be quite, I mean, we don't know what's going to happen on Monday or whenever we get the announcement, but part of what you're doing might have to be the new way going forward for a lot of organizations on how they hire and everything.
well, I think one of the things that I think that's happening is that you've got to look at what in a business, what makes you money? Who are the key resources that actually you leverage to grow your organization and to get a return on investment? And some of the services can easily be outsourced and are not really core to the business. But if you bring them all into your business, you have to have a whole lot of additional infrastructure and service organization within that to manage that, which is very costly and unproductive. And if I always have, when I've been talking to other CEOs, we figure that about 20% of their business is really core. The rest of it doesn't really amount to it's important to be that the service is provided, but it's not important to own it. Yet within organizations, people that are there and have that service want to grow their little empires, want to actually, be king of the castle and get more people on and do all this sort of stuff. And yet they're not required to show a return on investment. So what I think is going to happen after, and we saw this a little bit after the GFC, where businesses realized that they could do more with less. And I'm thinking that coronavirus might even add to that. People say, well, we can do more with less. We don't need to have this. We don't need to have all this office space for all our staff. For example, that's the most obvious one. We don't have to have all this infrastructure. And if you look at the cost of office space, it's huge. And if you look at the cost of departmental overheads and corporate overheads, it's a multiplier of the salary of the person. And you don't have to have that if you can outsource it. And the larger the organization, the higher the corporate overheads and the higher the departmental overheads. And in many organizations, they don't account for this. But when you have crises like the GFC and coronavirus, you'll find that people start to look at that much more carefully and say, maybe we don't need to do that. Maybe we can do it a different way.
I think you make a good point. It's the coming back to a business organization and just looking at profitability. Why do we exist? What services are we trying to offer? And maybe there's other people that can do some of the services that they're not making profit from, and they can, as you say, or outsource it or stop servicing that side, or collaborate with someone else. I think it is. People are all getting the red pens out and refining their budgets, but also, as you mentioned, taking sort of the hard, like massive offices or fancy offices away, and maybe putting more effort into people, into training, into education, or even the number of people if you need to increase resources. I think that would be a better outcome in most cases of providing better service for the most profitable products that they have. So that's a really good. Yeah, that's a really. I think we do need to learn a little bit from the GFC. I mean, I used to. I still run a business in to do with web development, and back in 2008, we were actually quite busy, very busy during those 3 years of 1 year and year around it and everything like that straight after it. So it is quite interesting, and I think here as well at humanIT, we're finding that a lot of people are getting smarter in their questions as well, and the projects that we're going forward with have got like direct correlation with what they need to get done with the core services they have to deliver, otherwise they go under. So that's really good. I mean, so I guess we're coming. We've got a few more questions. So we've talked a lot about technology. You use a lot of proprietary software, I guess, that you guys have customized and probably worked on that's helping you guys. Are there any other tools that you believe that you found that are some of your favorites? Any software or any other pieces of, I don't know, like everyone's using Zoom these days, but there's so many other pieces of software like Teams and anything like that. But have you found something?
We use all the Microsoft suite remotely, so that makes it easier. And we're exploring some of the stuff that we can get in modeling data with those sort of tools as well. The routine software that we use is our proprietary stuff around, assembling resumes and evaluating the potential staff, etc. That's something that we use a lot. We like using video interviews and video cameras, and there's a few other tools out there that people can readily use. You don't we've got one that's proprietary, but there are others that are freely available and that you can actually adapt to. And one of the things that we find is that, and I've always been a bit wary of this, when you actually develop your own software or develop proprietary stuff, then you've got to spend a lot of money on it to keep it going. But there are new tools coming out all the time, and that are cheaper and more cost effective. And my view now is that we've got to be on the lookout for the best tools that are available to basically use them whenever we can, because it's going to be cheaper for us. Ultimately.
That's a great point.
And we adapt. And one of the things is that we had problems with some of the stuff was written in a language that not many people knew, so it becomes more expensive and more difficult to basically manage that. And again, we're no different. We've had the same sort of experience that many organisations have at the moment, that they should be looking at what software is out there that's that they can use, and not to rush in and develop proprietary software just for themselves, because it'll be a burden for them sometime in the future.
Yeah, I think if you've got a web-based application at the moment, you can use things like Zapier and connect with so many really good applications out there without having to invest too much in integration.
Well, like what you're doing now with the fact that you can be sending it to LinkedIn and to Facebook and to any other platform. I mean, that's the way of the future, where it becomes it's about interconnectivity and providing that with the click of a button.
In a click of a button, yeah. I mean, part here in humanIT, when we work with organizations at the start, part of our Align IT framework, we actually do look at the application stack. And it's very interesting when we look at that. People have gone off in one bit and got proprietary software, and it was written in like Cold Fusion or COBOL or something, miles ago, and to pay someone to get them to fix it, it's like $350 or $500 an hour now, because no one's around, and then they've got all of these other people are using Skype for business, and they're also using Teams and this and that. But like you guys use the Office suite, I mean, I think that's a great place to start, because a lot of the things are integrated, like email and invites and connections and conversations and notes. So that's really good. So okay, so you're a big fan of the Office 365 suite. Would that be your?
Yeah, look, we got that 4 years ago. We put everything when we made it's 5 years ago, I think. Gosh, time flies. When we said, okay, look, we're not going to keep on spending all our money on hardware. Let's see what we need to do. So we ran everything in parallel for about 6 months.
Yeah.
We put everything that we thought was absolutely necessary on Office 365, and then started using that. And you guys helped us set that up, and that was fine. And then we basically stopped using our hardware, shut it down, and we have everything on hard copies, or not hard copies, but on disk, but or large drives. But we haven't really used it. Like everything that we had there that we didn't port over. And that's the funny thing. We keep most of our records now are really records for compliance purposes.
Yes, that's the same.
We don't look at it at all. It's been sitting there for the last few years. Nobody's needed to look at it, and everything worked really fine. And then what we did then is to look at different packages that we would bring on to do different things. Now, for a little while there, we had Infusionsoft, which is we kept, and that was fine on one level, because it had all this functionality. But there are so many other software tools out there that does the same thing for a fraction of the cost. And we don't use the software to its fullest extent. So I felt that we were driving a Maserati and actually just picking up the milk at the local store.
Just leave it in the garage. The thing with that, there's 2 points there. Hoarding of files, like in all honesty, for compliance sake, it's the only reason we keep our files as well. things change and evolve so much. You're working on new files, new templates, new things anyway. You don't really need to revert back. So besides just storing them for keepsake, I mean, I had to go back to one, and all our hard drives are encrypted. And this is for home. This is actually for my parents. I had to go back for one for them. And, we'd forgotten the password. So that's another problem. So we worked it out in the end. But, we actually didn't need it. We could have started again. And it's just interesting, all of these things that we keep now with the cloud and version control. And, we
it's interesting because I had the same problem when I came back from Mexico. I had my computer, and I wanted to collect all the files off there and put them on my new computer, and I forgot my password.
Yeah.
And I couldn't access the computer, and I still haven't been able to access the computer. Luckily, I had a good percentage of the main files already copied onto a series of disks at the time. But now I keep nothing on my local computer that I need. Everything's in the cloud. So every bit of all data, all files, they're in the cloud. If they're not in Office 365 and the database that they provide with that, it's in a Dropbox or something like that, even for my own personal stuff, pictures. So that if somebody sends me an email and craps out my computer, it's fine. I don't reboot it or basically start from scratch, wipe everything off.
Yeah, you just format everything and start again. Yeah, and the good thing is, like, with your phones and everything, if you forget your passwords on any of those cloud applications, you've got two-factor authentication, or you've got
it's so easy.
And, you can easily reset things, whereas in the past you were stuck. It's just you, and then that's it. So, hey, look, we probably need to wind up soon. We've got a couple of minutes left. Is there anything you wanted to, I guess, add or share in regards to how you're finding, where, like, I mean, you've mentioned a little bit about the restrictions and everything, and do you have any foresight? I did see on your website a little bit about, how you think it'll be when we start going back to work, a lot to do with office space, I guess you were talking about. Is there anything else you want to finish off with about, potentially what you might see the next 12 months or so look like?
Well, I think the number of jobs that are going to be done from the office will be less for a start. I think the amount of jobs in total will be less. I think people are looking at what do I really need. So people that are out of work and some percentage of them may not find another job in a hurry, and they have to look for something else or in some other direction. And I think in this day and age, that if you've got a specialist skill of some kind rather than a generalist, you're more likely to get hearing. And certainly in our area, in say things like technical side and engineering, good solid specialists will find opportunities. But generalists, less so.
Yeah, I think you're right. We've also noticed that with this remote working, you actually can see who the people are that can genuinely do the job. We've heard from other organizations where, it's actually been an easier decision for them. It's a bad time to let people go, but when people are working by themselves and they've got a set of deliverables and, they're not achieving it, you can see where the weak links were, By the way, I saw, I think Seek's got a new drop down now that says, you can look for jobs where it says working from home or something.
I think one of the things that has been a problem in the past that companies grow and people are doing jobs, and some jobs that they do are a waste of time and that don't add any value, and sometimes they're doing jobs that are fixing up other people's mistakes or other jobs, or doing strange things that undermine the efficiency of the organization. And that's because large organizations become more and more complex, and a lot of people are just there and they're not contributing. I think in circumstances like this, people will start to differentiate and say, well, what do we really need? And do we need to have that job? People, the organisation will start to look more critically at what's required. So don't be surprised that it takes a while before employment comes back to the same level that it was. It'll be in a different form. That's my guess.
Yeah. Well, that's a great note to probably leave on. Thanks a lot, Ron, for your time. It was great chatting with you. I'll let you get back to do with whatever you're trying to do.
Whether it's inviting me, and all the best.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, Ron. Take it easy.
Cheers.
Thanks, everyone, for listening. Bye.